Defiance. And
Defiance.
What's next for you?
I'm not sure. I just had a really, really crappy movie fall through. You know, sometimes you just like take the money and you're like, how could this ever even be a movie? I read the script. I'm not going to name it because it all fell through anyway. They never had their finances. But I actually read the script 3 times and could not figure out the ending of my character. Like, did she become a zombie, or did the zombies take her down? Or I mean, truly, it was so unclear. And I'm like, this is not a movie. And then of course it didn't go. So,
Wow.
We'll
find it on DVDs.
I think I'm gonna just take a little while. My father just died, and I've had a couple of, it's okay.
Sorry.
I'm a little tired, you know. It's like, gonna do some yoga and some juicing, and just kind of get myself back.
Well, I have a spare bedroom and a pool.
It's got a pool too.
Yeah. So, and cable, as you know. Okay. Hey, got a question?
Yeah. If they asked you to do the like a cameo of the Sharknado 4.
Ooh, that is such an interesting question.
Hopefully, everyone heard the question? If not, they asked if she was offered a part in Sharknado 4.
Would she do it? I'd go for it. It's just too irresistible.
And we want you to come back in character, you know? You don't need a chainsaw. Just like this young lady right here.
That's
you
right.
can come back just as her.
I'm going to be making fun of my role as Sarah Connor for the rest of my career. Actually, I've done 2 shows now where I actually get to say, come with me if you want to live. They've written that for me. You know, pretty much every guest starring part that I play from now on is going to have that line in it.
But Linda's iconic.
We do.
It's iconic and it's going to be passed down.
Yeah.
Generations. It's iconic. So, hi.
Hi, I have a question about your role in Defiance. You're not sure that they're going to bring you back, are you?
No, I'm not sure.
Because I was going to be like,
It was talked about. That's why you didn't really see my dead body. But I think they just ran out of days. You know, they had so many stories to tell. So if we get picked up, I mean, that show is just funny. It just doesn't. It takes like 1.5 years for them to pick it up for the next season. At which point you've lost your audience. You know, they just won't build momentum. But I love that show. I just think they're Grant Bowler is just like one of the best actors out there. I mean, he's just so solid, sexy, just good with weapons and good with people. And, like, I'm a big fan of that show. So
thank you.
We hope.
My question is, Linda, if you've seen all the other iterations of Terminator, how do you feel about the performances by Lena Headey and Sarah Clark and Sarah Connor?
Yeah, I'm like a loser that way. I never saw Lena, and I wish I had, because I love her, and I just think she's extraordinary. And I love a lot of her other work.
Have you watched Game of Thrones?
I'm not. I read the books. When I read the books, I just am not real interested in seeing them. I lived Game of Thrones in my mind for about, all 5 books. I was like waking up going, I dreamt about Game of Thrones. I mean, I think the writing is just so good. So I haven't seen it, because I just think that's what's in my imagination is just always more interesting than somebody else's rendition of it. And I haven't seen Genesis yet, but I will see it this week, and I'll have to give you a phone number and I'll call you back. Mark is very jealous.
Hi, my question was about Beauty and the Beast. How did you feel about your relationship with Vincent as the show progressed?
I was frustrated. I wanted to really kind of move the characters along. And at the end of season 1, there was a supposed kiss. And they really just cut the crap out of this kiss. I mean, it was a very kind of like what everyone in the audience has been waiting for this, cataclysmic moment, this union of these 2 actors, of these 2 characters. And, the network was just, when you're doing a TV show, it's so fear-based. They come up with a certain formula, and they don't want to stray to the left or right of that. They're so afraid. I remember there was a day show where I said, we were out on the balcony for the 100th time because Vincent never goes into Catherine's apartment, and I said, could we like be drinking a cup of tea? Because we've been out here all night, it's night, and some tea would be nice. And our producer just like freaked out. You're not a couple of yuppies. I'm like, it's just a pot of tea, something different, you know? So at the end of that first season, when the kiss was snipped out and it really was not nearly what we had shot, I was horribly disappointed. You know, you get very invested in kind of like, wouldn't it be great if we were really courageous and we did that? Or wouldn't it be fun if Vincent taught Catherine to ride the subways? I wanted comedy in there too. You know, I mean, like the full life experience, the full richness of two people together. And so I was campaigning all the time to just like, can we move this along? Can we get some comedy? But, you know, I think they probably hated me by the end.
Yeah, I got a little tired of the operating, you know, I'm seeing this.
My head on his shoulder at the end of every episode. It's like, could my head be on the other shoulder? It's like, whoa, my other shoulder. I mean, that's how it feels when you've got like the people in the tower that kind of want the same thing every week. And I'm not sure that we could have done it much longer. Although I loved so much of it, you know, and it's from love that I wanted to just grow it. But that's dangerous when you're doing network television.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Uh-oh. I knew there would be one.
Hello. So between Terminators 1 and 2, the role of Sarah Connor was very different. Can you just describe how it was different preparing for role one in one of the movies versus the other?
Yes. Number one, you know, it's kind of an ingenue, really. Kind of still new in Los Angeles, and you know, that was really what I played, and that's kind of who Sarah Connor was, just an innocent that's drawn in. So there wasn't a lot of real prep. I mean, she's not a character in the first movie who knows weapons, who really knows anything. So there wasn't a lot of preparation. It's just like jump in and believe every scene and do your best work. And then the second time around, when Jim came and said, we're going to do a second one, I was like, uh-oh. Because we now had a 7-year break between the two movies, and I had a lot of time to sort of figure out where that character would have gone had she been living for 7 years with the certainty that the world was going to end and that robots were going to take over and start killing mankind. So when Jim approached me with the second one, he said there wasn't a script yet. We just got together, and I was like, you gotta make her crazy. She's crazy. And then he went away and he wrote a script. I read the script, I was like, oh my God, she's so crazy. I need to train her. I need to know my weapons. So I drove that second one. I think we were pretty collaborative, and I just was like, we gotta just make as much of her as we possibly can. She's had 7 years to get her game on since the last one.
Sorry about that. What about the physical transformation in those 7 years? Was that your doing, not knowing?
Well, I didn't spend the 7 years training. Well, it looked like I did, didn't it? No, I actually had just had a baby, or I was like super pregnant when Jim came to me the first time, and I was like out to here for the baby, and I was like, oh. So when the script delivered, I had just had the baby, and had like all this baby weight on, and I was like, oh boy, how are we gonna get this done? But I just trained my ass off, excuse me, children. Literally, 18 hours a week of physical working out, and another 18 hours a week doing weapons and training, and it was a very good time for me, actually, to do that. So, I had a 1-year-old baby when that movie started, and I looked like that. So that, I think, was a real triumph to go, yeah, I've got a 1-year-old baby. I was real proud, I saw Arnold the first time, and I think I ripped off my shirt pretty much, and was like, Arnold, look at me! I had a running bra on or something like that. I was just like, Arnold, I did it. And Arnold was totally on my team, let me use his gym, you know, very generous, very proud. So, you know, those were the days where they had just started the fat-free diet, and that was the new science was don't eat fat if you want to look ripped. And so I didn't eat fat for probably 8 months. I mean, 3 months before training and 6 months doing it. And then afterwards, all that time of not eating fat, I couldn't even tolerate fat. You know what I mean? Somebody gives you a little butter, and you're like, ugh, it's just had been so long. And I would never do it that way again, because it turns out your body does need fat, and your brain needs fat. But those were the days, right? We were doing the best we could now, and it was good. I mean, I remember waking up one morning, I was like, got up and I just kind of stretched, and I was like, these aren't hips anymore, they're flanks. You know what I mean? It was so empowering. And I stayed true to it. I mean, I remember there was one day we moved to location, and so there were gift baskets from the producers wishing us well in this new location, and I ate like a tiny piece of Baby Bell cheese, this much, and I thought, I've ruined the movie. You know, like, get into this total mindset, like, this much cheese was like ruinous, and that's the kind of discipline I had in those days. As you can tell, it's not quite the same for me today.
Cool, thank you very much.
My question is, when it comes to being in like shooting locations that are hard to work in and playing scenes that involve like very intense scenarios, are those harder to act in because of what you're subjected to, or easier to act in because it makes you like more one with the character that you're playing?
Well, the background does not always suit the character, you know? I mean, last summer, I mean, it's always the hottest place in the world in the summer and the coldest place in the world in the winter. That's how it works out when you're acting. And I actually have a really, really good regulator. My body temperature just like, I worked in New Mexico one summer, and it was triple digits. But it's not just like dry desert New Mexico, it's like monsoon season in August, triple digits, and then huge humidity. I mean, we had 300-pound guys that were like fainting from the heat. And after day 2, I just didn't notice it anymore. I mean, I have a great way of disciplining myself, going, it's just heat, it's just sweat. I mean, I would drink 8 bottles of water a day and never pee, and I thought, what's happening? Am I having like a renal failure? I'm literally sweating it out. You don't even have to go to the bathroom. But you just discipline your mind and say, it's just heat, and I got a scene to do, and sometimes it's a problem when your makeup is sliding off your face, and they just have to be like, oh, please let me just get one more without like makeup adjustments, because you get into a certain rhythm, and you're just like, let's go again, let's go again. But I think it's done it for so long now that I ignore my own physical discomfort and just get the acting done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Why don't you rotate that down, or you pull it off completely if you want. There you go.
In the first movie, were you scared when you saw the Terminator?
No, but I was super impressed, right? I really thought he looked great, but you know what? I had bad dreams about the Terminator for about a year afterwards. I did. I think I was a younger actress and didn't quite know how to act out all that stuff, the loss, the fear. I mean, this is a character who loses her roommate, her mother, her lover, you know, and that loss. I mean, the scene where they're putting me into the ambulance. Well, for some reason, he strapped me to a gurney and then left me alone for like 3 hours. I don't quite know how that happened, but I sat on the gurney and wept for about 3 hours, just like release, not, and I'm like, why did they come for me? It was just, I mean, you bring up so much loss and grief, and unless you're a seasoned actress, you don't really know how to protect yourself from that. So somewhere, my psyche felt that I'd lost a lot of people. And I remember dreaming that the Terminator was at my parents' house, coming for me, that it was out the window. I mean, you know, for the longest time, I really felt like a lot of loss and grief. But I'm better now. I can do that kind of work and then go outside and laugh and make everybody else laugh and then go back in and cry. I know how to do it now.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Nice question.
Hi.
Hi.
I remember when I first saw the second Terminator, I thought, wow, Sarah Connor is some kind of badass. So I was wondering if you can still do pull-ups like you did.
I'm saying yes. And that's not at all. But it was great to do it in those days. And you know what? It's funny. Badass. I studied acting in New York. I went to the Strasberg Theater School and the Actors Studio, and never in my wildest dreams would I have thought of myself as a badass. Do you know? I was going to be a Shakespearean actress, right? And you have no real control over the way your career goes, and all of a sudden people go, oh, she's good angry. And I'm like, oh, she's good really angry. She's good killing people. And then suddenly you're an action adventure star, and you have no idea how it happened. But I know complaints.
Thank you so much.
Well, you were in good company because during that time, the Terminator came out. Of course, Aliens came out as well. And Sigourney basically broke out as a badass. So we're like, oh my God, I'm really strong.
She really was number one.
I don't think so. I think you were number one.
She did it first, I did it better. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Hi Linda, I'm Steven.
Hi, Steve.
How are you?
Good.
I was gonna ask a lot of questions they asked about you getting physically fit for that role, but whenever over 20 years later people are like, I'm cut. I'm like Linda Hamilton in Terminator 2 still. So I think you're kind of responsible perhaps for these Christian Bales and people who have made it their thing to get physically fit and change the role between the first and second. So here's my question. You ready? What has been the most dangerous thing you think you've ever done on film?
Oh.
I mean,
Lordy, I started out in the early years where they really didn't look after actors. There weren't a lot of rules in place that meant they would literally say, Linda, jump off that bridge, and I would. No harness or anything. I dangled from things, I jumped crevasses. King Kong Lives, which I actually can't believe I said that. It's just a terrible, terrible movie, but the things that I did on that movie, and you look at it, she's a doctor, she's not a stunt woman, but we were up in the Smoky Mountains, and with slippery rock and huge crevasses, and they'd say, you need to jump from here to there, and I'd be like, okay. Nobody today would even think of doing what we did in the old days. That was just not even on film. It was just you just jump over there and do that and dangle from that, and I'd be like, okay, because I was just a good sport. In the Terminator movies, the second one, I leaped through fire, which was a little scary because my hair was this long, and it was like tinder, I was like, what if my long hair catches fire? And then, I don't know, there have been some really horribly uncomfortable days, where they will turn a fire hose into a Ritter fan. Does anybody know what a Ritter fan is? It's this huge industrial fan that has so much force. And they take a fire hose and they turn it into a Ritter fan, and then they blow that water on you. It's worse than being knocked down with a fire hose. And when they want you to do your dialogue, you're like, because the water is pounding so hard you can't even get the words out. And I remember that day, and my whole boots filling up with water all day long and slogging up the mountain and being wrapped in plastic, and then coming back down. I got so utterly drunk that night. I called my husband, apparently. I don't remember. I was like, who in the world he called me the next day. He goes, did you call me last night? And I was like, no. I didn't even know it was my voice. You know what I mean? I was just shattered. How could this be? How could it be? And there are a lot of days like that where, you know, it isn't necessarily the most dangerous, but it's like the worst. Yeah.
You still look amazing.
Thank you. From a distance. I see myself now on screens only this big. I'm like, do you have a smaller phone? I like my image when it's about this big. I can tolerate that, that's it.
Hi there.
Hey.
I was wondering when they brought you back for the second Terminator and
Yes.
there wasn't a script.
Yeah.
Were you afraid that it wasn't going to be as good as the first one?
No, because I knew it would be bigger.
Yeah.
You know, and bigger does not necessarily mean better. But you know, I couldn't really tell if the first movie was good or not. You know, you just get so close to it. And I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, I forgive Jim Cameron for everything. Because I thought it was like, wow, that man knows what he's doing. I had no idea that there would be that much heat and pace. And I really liked it. And then the audiences were really weak for it. And I remember I went, oh, I was supposed to go to New York to do press. Nobody cared. I mean, actually, my part of the press tour was canceled because they only wanted to talk to Arnold. And then I remember seeing it in the theater with people, and it was lukewarm, and I'm like, oh, I don't think this movie's good. You know, you're so kind of at the mercy of the, you know, the temperature of the day. So I had never quite decided whether Terminator 1 was good or not. So I wasn't real worried about beating it out or living up to it. But that's just because you get so close. It's just really hard to tell.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think it was new, it was innovative. There have been robot movies out there in the past or whatever. But this kind of broke around, in my opinion, and flashing back or flashing forward to the future and that version of the future, which wasn't sure it was and everything nice. And it was like, you know, again, that was all new. We were taken to it. Hi.
Hello. What do you know about any plans to bring Chuck back via like Netflix or other alternative television sources?
I'm always the last to know. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm like so not plugged in to anything. So I haven't heard a thing. I mean, that would be cool. But in general, I would guess that both of those actors, Yvonne and Levi, have and Zachary have moved on to their own things. And as devoted as you are to a certain show, while you're doing it, when you step back and then there's this and that, you tend to not want to go backwards. You know, I mean, I could ask for years and years and years whether there was going to be a new beauty, whether they were going to create a Beauty and the Beast. And as great as those days were, I just don't like to go backwards, and most of us don't, you know.
That's interesting. That's the same response that the previous guest, Freeman from Doctor Who, had when they asked her if she would go back into Doctor Who. She said basically the same thing.
Yeah, it's lovely that the fans respond and want to see it again. I mean, you know, not discounting any of that, but usually for actors, or for me, I can only speak really for myself, I just don't want to play the same woman over and over and over again. I mean, after T2, I had to work really, I don't know, I wore dresses for 2 years because everybody offered me cops, dykes, and military people. I mean, that's all those were the only offers I got. I mean, I literally had to win Dante's Peak because I walked in and the director quite seriously says to me, well, I don't know, I mean, you've never played a character like this before. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, well, normal. Like, buddy, if I can play that and make it look right, I can probably play normal and make it look right. But you know, they all treat you like you're gonna walk in and chew up the scenery and arm wrestle the crew and kill them if they make a mistake. And it's like, no, it's so normal. You know, it's funny, it's in your way.
Hi. Hi. All right. So my question is, out of all the roles you played, do you have a favorite, and if you like that you enjoyed playing, and if you don't, what would be your idea?
Well, I think I miss the boat with comedy. I would love to do comedy, but it might just be late. And I have a face built for tragedy. You know? My face is built for tragedy, but the rest of me is comedy, all comedy. And I haven't really got to do enough of that. But I have played some roles that probably none of you have seen that I really treasured. One was in a movie called A Mother's Prayer, and I played a woman dying of AIDS who, based on a real character, who became an adoption agency so she could adopt her son out because she didn't have family to leave him with. And it was so gut-wrenching and amazing. I turned it down because it was in between seasons of Beauty and the Beast, and I just needed a break. But then there was a strike, like a writer's strike or something, and we had extra time, and I just couldn't stop thinking about this part. And I ended up going and doing it and just having the most amazing time. But that was more like relationship with the young actor that played my son, and he was just so gifted. And by the end of this movie, we would just look at each other, and it was so real. I mean, all the pain, and you know, moments where I'm trying to tell him I love him, and he's punching his bear in rage, and you know, the director saying to me, "Linda, try to do it. Don't cry." And I'm like, "I'm trying." But it just became so real and so super precious. And every once in a while, you have an amazing experience like that where I just wept saying goodbye to that boy. So that was one. I did a movie a few years back called Refuge, which isn't a great movie. It's very sort of imperfect. And the director, Mark Medoff, won a Tony for, I can never remember, but I will before too long. So a Tony Award-winning writer who was directing and really didn't have the experience or the team. And he put it together with all of his students. This is the one that I did in New Mexico. But it was just the greatest script. And sometimes the greatest script does not turn into the greatest movie, but boy, what he had written for us just made it so rich. And